No. Welcome to the Dirty Mike and the Boys. This is the gay orgy live stream for the show where anything goes, almost anything, I should say. Nothing really gay happens, but we only wish that gay things would happen on this show. Now, I got a 0 sugar Sprite, but need to cut back the weight anyway, so I do like me some of the 0 sugar shit. That's actually not that bad. You know, honestly, as far as it goes, I like it. Cheers. Cheers, everybody. Woo! Waiting for you all to join in. While I'm waiting, I'll talk about whatever. Join the party, everyone. Link. Get in here, Tim. Tim needs to get in here as well. He's asking, will there be spanking? I want action. You're not going to get a lot of action on this. But there will be lots of homosexuality happening. So anybody who wants to get in on the live stream, feel free. The link is in the chat, but it may not be clickable. If you want the clickable link to join in on the fun, go to the description of this video is going to be the goal. I think I saved it. Hold on. Did I save it properly? I sure did. So yeah, you should be able to see a clickable link. And yeah, I want everybody who wants to join in on this one. This is, I got inspired by Piers Morgan is who I got inspired by. I saw him have like 4 or 5 people on his show all talking over each other. And that's kind of what I want, except for I want everybody trying to cross swords virtually is kind of the hope, but I understand that's not going to happen. The YouTube guidelines will not allow me to do this. But in honor of the woke Olympics and the woke opening ceremony, I'm going to paint myself blue and start singing to you all. Just to let you know. By the way, if the link doesn't work, if the clickable link doesn't work, let me know. Tim, I'm glad you're here. Feel free to join in on the gay orgy live stream. Everybody's welcome. If you feel like being on camera, or if you don't feel like being on camera, you could still join in. You can join audio only if anybody's wanting to. There's Tim. Woo.
Yes.
We got Tim on. Yeah, dude. So I got inspired by Piers Morgan, and I thought I was watching Piers Morgan Uncensored, and I realized that what I need are 4 homoerotic people trying to talk over each other and arguing with each other. It's really the goal here.
Yeah, I'm going to start out as Cenk, but if I drink enough alcohol, I become Destiny.
Oh, no. Oh, God, no. Dude, Destiny. Dude, I used to kind of be okay with Destiny when I first started watching him. I was like, okay, he seems kind of like a fair-mannered lad. And then the more I've watched of him, I'm like, dude, Destiny's the biggest piece of shit. Like, I think he does it for the clicks, obviously. He's taken the Andrew Tate route with a lot of it, where you just got to be controversial and all that shit.
Well, there were some conservative influencers who tried to take him under their wing as oh, he's some moderate person. He has interesting takes. He's not really but then I don't know what happened. I lost track of him, and then out of nowhere, he seems like he went nuts.
See, I don't mind that he's even Democrat. I don't even mind that. He's just, I don't know what it is. He's just such a.
Well, it's like my joke with my coworker is that
it's like put my finger on it.
It's like he'll talk for hours, Destiny, and without saying anything.
Yeah.
It's I think he doesn't have a day job. I guess maybe he made money from video game streaming and all that. Maybe he has a lot of money. but it has nothing to do than go on shows and just talk a long time. So the goal is to just keep talking without actually have it go anywhere. So he'll just talk for hours, and you realize, I don't think he said anything for 7 hours.
Yeah. I think what makes me mad, I kind of pinpointed it, is just how outraged he gets about everything. About how, like, he'll just go off on a handle. Like, he's basically a Karen. Destiny is essentially a blue-haired lesbian Karen. You know, I don't know if that's the right term, but he's definitely a Karen, and he's on the extreme unhinged scale. But oh man, that's wild.
Yeah, I don't even a Karen is too much substance to give him. At least Karens, their thing is to complain when stuff gets like out of line and everything. Him, I don't even know. Like, what was this thing he got in trouble for? Oh, he was happy with when the assassination attempt happened or something.
Yeah,
everyone deserved it.
That was so freaking annoying. I know it is possible he may really believe that. It's possible, but I highly doubt it. I think he's doing it for the clicks. He's doing it completely for the clicks, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. Things got a little stale. Maybe his views were down. You have to pump him up a bit. He's like, I'll lose a few, but I'll get some attention because he has nothing going. I don't know what his. I don't know. He just talks, and that's it. That's all he does.
I mean, it's really no different than my stupid channel. I mean, I talk a lot. I talk a lot of shit, but I don't know. I don't know.
Some Italian amaretto. You ever drink this?
Italian amaretto. Ooh. You froze a little bit, but that looks pretty good. Is this hard liquor?
Yes, 28% alcohol. It's kind of sweet, but it's got like sugar, but it's like fermented. I don't know what's in it. Almonds and like fruits and stuff, but
hell yeah.
But yeah, Destiny is just, I don't know. Yeah, but I know this Piers Morgan's been going nuts lately. It's turned into the Jerry Springer show. Like he'll have like a guest and stuff in the past. Now he has always got like 5 or 6 people. And then some people will leave and he'll bring in new people on the same episode. And it's the Jerry Springer show. Everyone just starts fighting.
I love it. And it's basically Jerry Springer meets a Zoom call.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant, dude. It's basically salute to Piers Morgan, by the way, for being like the Dr. Phil or the Jerry Springer of Zoom calls, because he nailed it. Like, dude, he nailed it, man. I love Piers. I don't like all of Piers Morgan's views. I think they're a little ridiculous, but I like his business sense. He knows how to get attention, and he's good at it. So I'll give him props. I'll even give Destiny props. I'll give Destiny props on his ability to find a way to garner attention. Because either way, Destiny wins, unfortunately. The more attention everybody gives him, the more money he makes either way. So it pretty much sucks ass.
Yeah, Piers Morgan started as a tabloid reporter in England. Like he would just report on celebrities. And I think he got sued in all kinds of trouble. His paper was like tapping people's phones illegally or something.
Damn, dude.
But he was just sort of hung around. Then he ended up on CNN at one point. I remember that. People would go on and fight with him, like Ben Shapiro, Alex Jones.
Oh my god, dude, that's freaking great.
Yeah, do you remember the time Alex fought with him on a CNN?
Oh yes. He was like, "You're trying to take our guns away." Alex Jones is getting really pissed at Piers Morgan.
Yeah, so he's just a tabloid reporter who's just kind of good at just kind of hosting stuff. And now, I don't know, he loves creating like fights. It's like that show. What's the show where the robots fight each other on like Sci-Fi Channel?
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. It used to be on
Robo Wars or something.
It used to be on G4 TV back in the day, where they had like, it was like Robot Wars, where people would build robots and shit, and they would like, robots would fight each other in some little arena, which was pretty sick. It was pretty sick, actually.
That's what Piers Morgan's show is. It's Robot Wars. It's just, all right, go.
Honestly, it's better than slap fights. Like, it's better than that fucking what Dana White created. The
Power
slap
yeah.
stuff.
I tried to watch it. I watched one event, and I'm just like, it's okay, I guess, but I don't know.
I just feel bad for those people's heads.
Yeah,
they're gonna have so many concussions from that. It's insane. Like, dude,
and they got women's now. Women's slap. I think it should only be women if it's gonna be slap fights.
Yeah, because some men are way too powerful dude, so, have you seen some of those dudes that are like jacked to the core? They're just like, you blow your head off. It's like, dude, one of these days somebody's gonna break their fucking neck.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be. I mean, maybe it already happened. I don't know, but like Dana White's gonna get sued unless he's got some really good fucking clauses in the contract, like I'm not liable for anything that happens in that arena, sort of contract or whatever. But oh man.
Apparently it's big internationally, like all over Europe and Asia and stuff. So like I see it on Rumble. Like it doesn't get enormous numbers, but I think it's on like 20 other platforms or something.
That's so wild to me. I don't know why that's wild to me, but it just
came out of nowhere. He didn't start it. He bought it. Someone else started it. But he says it's going to be bigger than UFC. So I don't know.
I don't think so. I think there may be more people like me who are just kind of turned off by it. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I might be wrong. Maybe I just feel disgusted watching it. I'm like, damn, I feel bad for people's brains. They're gonna have mental health issues. We're gonna see like a really bad CTE situation where somebody kills his family or something like that after getting hit in the head too many times. I don't know.
Yeah, you're getting hit in the jaw, they get knocked out. It's like, but the problem is too, there's too many rules. Like if you flinch like a millimeter, then it's like that's a foul. Or if you hit someone with your hands not quite perfect, then that's a foul. There's all kinds of fouls. So sometimes it's just all fouls, and then the judge just decides who hits.
Yeah, I'd probably get killed if I joined slap fights. I know for a fact. My neck is kind of strong, but I'd be dead after a day.
Well, how do you train for that? I don't know how you train to get slapped.
First off, you'd have to do neck training, like really hard neck training, and then also you'd have to find a way to get your bones super. You'd have to have like a Wolverine antimadium skull or whatever the hell that shit's called. You'd have to have like a skull of steel, basically, to be able to handle all that shit. So I don't know. I just feel like it's just too much, man. You're gonna have broken jaws everywhere. It just feels like a bad thing. Like I understand, like UFC, like people get hit in the head, for example.
Yeah,
but that's not the whole point of the UFC. You have the ability as a fighter to dodge those hits to the head. This whole power slap is about hitting you in the fucking head. And a slap is just as hard as a fist to the face. A slap can be, you're still putting so much pressure. Like, I don't know. I feel I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. I think it's just a bad idea.
It'd be better if it wasn't like professional power slap people, instead if it was celebrities or something. Like Destiny versus Shank in a power slap contest. That would be good.
I wouldn't mind like a power slap contest with people who are total wussies, that have no arm strength at all. I'm fine with that.
What's that thing they do in like England, Creator Clash, where it's like YouTubers all bought like Boogie 2988 fought another guy who looks like Donkey Kong. It's like, what if they did that for power slap? Boogie power slap versus CoffeeZilla.
That would be fucking gold, dude. I'm not gonna lie. If I had the opportunity to be in a YouTube boxing thing, like I got selected to like go up against some like strongman personal finance or somebody, which I would be down for that. I know a strongman would kick my ass without a doubt, but like it would be fun. If I'm gonna fight somebody, I want to fight somebody who I know I could beat. That sounds terrible. I want to fight somebody I know I could beat. And I wouldn't be like terrible to him, but it'd be fun to do a boxing match though with like Michael Malice.
Michael Malice versus Meat Kevin. Like the possibilities are endless. But yeah, like you could do a power slap too. And,
I think Meat Kevin versus Destiny. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Oh, yeah. I'll be back in just a second.
All right.
I was cooking a couple things on the George Foreman grill.
Oh, really? What do you got?
I got some chicken filet that I'm cooking. Well, not filet. What am I saying? Not filet. Chicken. What's it called? Basically just a chicken patty and some popcorn chicken that I put on the George Foreman grill. You actually could probably see it right behind me, to be honest. If you look behind, but
Okay, there we go.
Kind of tough to see. It's next to my coffee maker.
Nice.
But yeah, that's pretty much what I am letting it cool down. Probably eat that here in a few. I'll probably eat it in front of everybody. I'll just make a sandwich in front of everybody and eat it. But yeah, I figured, I want to be more like Piers Morgan, except for less British and more. I want to be more divisive than Piers Morgan. I want to be like, I want to like. I would love to host one of those debates where everybody's just like, how do I explain that? Where everybody's just talking over each other, just like CNN back in the day. I want to bring that back. I felt like it worked. I felt like it was a formula that worked because everybody gets so pissed at each other. They bring out their animalistic instincts against each other. They say what they're really thinking, They bring out their true colors. There's nothing that brings out somebody's true colors better than an argument. I think an argument will always bring out people's best true colors for the most part.
Sorry, I just sent my coworker the link to come on. He might come on.
Oh, hell yeah!
I've been telling him to email you for an interview, but
yeah, I don't know if you saw my recent stream. It was like yesterday. I put I basically said, hey, it was an open invitation. If anybody ever wants to be interviewed, I'll interview you.
Yeah, that's what I told him. He saw that, and he's like, well, email him. You can have a free interview on the Garza show.
Yeah, well, actually, I haven't checked my email, so maybe he did email me. I don't know. Let me take a look.
I just gave him the StreamYard link, so.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, if he needs the link, too, he could just go into the description. I was like, you know what? I got to make sure the link is in the description this time around. Let's see. There's a media's quick question. It's funny. I get so much spam with all these people that are like, we really love your YouTube channel. We think you would be able to benefit from our SEO practices or our bullshit video editing. They just seem like scammers the whole time.
Well, like a lot of people like that Pearl chick, like Pearly things. She has a whole team from like Nigeria that does all that stuff. Like they come up with like clickbait headlines for every video and like a funny picture. But it's like they'll do all that. Like they'll come up with a funny thing that makes people want to click on it, kind of thing. But I don't know how much they charge, but that's what they do. So.
I was gonna say, man, she should save herself some money and just use ChatGPT. Like AI, the AI itself has helped me out tremendously when it comes to like if I'm having like writer's block and I need like an idea for a title, I just go to ChatGPT. I'm like, fuck, I need a title. Here's what this episode's about. But usually I'm able to come up with my own creepy ass titles and shit like that. Like this one right here, Dirty Mike and the Boys Gay Orgy live stream. Sadly there's no gay orgy just yet. That's happening, but
yeah, it's funny because unlike other channels, yours like the title almost never matches the video. So I don't know if people like that or not. It's like they click on it and now but you're going up. It seems like you're still going up about 100 subscribers a week.
Yeah. A lot of it is just from I've been scheduling my short videos. I've been scheduling 6, and I'm losing my voice a little bit today. Hold on, I sound funny. But I've been scheduling videos 4 hours apart from each other. So, like, for example, I'll schedule a video for 12 a.m., then 4 a.m., then 8 a.m. And these are all short videos, by the way. They're like a minute long or less. And then, like, it'll be like 12 p.m., then 4 p.m., and then 8 p.m., etc. And what I do, my whole goal is I pre-schedule all of these videos in advance. And I think that alone is helping the subscriber count increase in theory. So
yeah, I think the shorts are big. They always pop up for me too on my thing. But I've clicked on a couple other live streams lately of just random people. And like, sometimes I'm the only one and And I don't know, a lot of times, like this one guy, I think it was like a kid, like a teenager, some guy in like, who knows, like Carolina or something like that. And he was just watching an hour of like those short clip videos that are like really quick, like someone slipping on something or whatever. But they're all like really subtle and fast. And you're just supposed to watch them. I can only take a few minutes. I'm like, I demanded he put on like, I want to see people fighting at 3 a.m. at McDonald's. Like I want to see brawls and stuff. So he played a couple brawls. But yeah, I don't know. It's like there's so many people streaming. But a lot of people like that. They'll stream like once a month or something like that, just when they're bored. Like they're not really going for like a channel.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
That Jablonski interview is good though. Like you were saying, oh, it's not that good, but it was good. Like you asked the question, she had good answers. That's like you know more than me about finance. I couldn't really do that. I couldn't really like do that. So that was really good. I learned some stuff. So yeah, that Jablonski was good. She got some wild ETFs. So that's
some fun. Of those Defiance ones are definitely defiant to the normal ETFs for sure. There's some of the Defiance ETFs I kind of question a little bit in how they operate. Like I understand how they operate, but I'm like thinking to myself, it's a good idea on paper for some of them, but in practice, I wonder, but I mean, the philosophies, like I'll give you an example. She mentioned 0 day trading, or not 0 day trading. Sorry about that. 0 day expirations for options contracts. What she really means is we're talking about like options contracts that they buy that have like a 12-hour or an 18-hour expiry. And that sort of stuff, like those sort of ETFs, they make sense to me, but I feel like sometimes that they can end in not too much of a loss, because I don't know, it's tricky. It's like, I just don't think that you're going to get a lot of income from that style of investing, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'm rambling on a little bit. My bad.
All right, my coworker said gay orgy WTF. I said Garza's going for clicks, and he's like LOL. So
I'm going for clicks, and I'm going for dicks. Dicks and clicks, man. Dicks and clicks. But
and one of my things, I got a weird ETF in one of my ETFs that's made up of ETFs. It's called the Sustainable Real. It's called the Sustainable Real Assets Dividend. Wait just a second. Is that the one I'm? Yeah, but it says real assets, so it's supposed to be real things. So mostly commodities, but also there's like Marriott hotels in there and T-Mobile. So I don't know what's not a real thing.
I think it may be like real estate. It may be actual physical real estate. It may be physical items like cars. Yeah. Could be things like
I think something like Adobe might not count because it's like software. I think they mean like physical things or something.
Oh, maybe companies that sell physical items too, I guess, would count.
Yeah, like there's Hitachi, they make electronic stuff. There's a bunch of companies I've never heard of, some like natural gas. But I think it's just like real things. I guess that would be not tech. I guess it would be everything else. I don't know. And banks, probably no banks either. So, but just funny that was in there. It's like, that's kind of cool. But one thing I learned about these covered calls, because I asked my ETF, the one I got, I emailed them like, who's buying these covered calls? I get who's writing them, but who's buying them? Because it doesn't seem like a good deal. It's like gambling. Like at least the ETF writing the call is the casino in the transaction. So I'm like, who's betting on them and why? And they're like, we can't tell you anything about who's buying them. We're not allowed or something.
I can give you some insight though on why.
I found out from someone. I can't remember what I was watching, but someone gave me some insight. But what they said is that, it could be anyone, all kinds of investors, but a lot of it is major investors like banks and stuff like that, because like they might have like a put call or something against the same stock, and to hedge their bets, they'll do a covered call that it'll go up.
Yeah.
So then if it does, then they'll get it for cheaper. So a lot of it is just risk management for major investors, which kind of makes sense, because otherwise, if it's just a regular investor, like why even do these covered calls? Doesn't seem like a good deal.
Well, and the thing is, the whole idea of putting out the call contract is obviously the person who writes the contract thinks that the stock isn't going to go up in X amount of time, or at least anticipates that it probably won't.
Yeah.
Person who buys it obviously thinks the stock will go up and all that stuff. But I will say that the reason, there are people who have a thesis and they want to make a lot of money off of that thesis. So, and they're willing to do some gambling by purchasing a call contract that somebody else wrote. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or something along those lines. And I will admit, the income that you get for writing call contracts, if you're right about them, could be nice. But always make sure that you have collateral. And when I say collateral, make sure you have the stocks to back up that contract that you write as collateral, just in case you need to sell the shares that you have, because a call option at the end of the day is the right to purchase, the stocks at whatever strike price is set. So I'll give you an example. I mean, you already know how call options work, I believe, for the most part. I know that you do but I don't know. Like I don't know. I think covered call strategy is nice. You just don't want to do. I still think it's a bad idea to have 100% of your portfolio as collateral. I think that's a bad idea. If you're writing call options, that's a scary thought. You just want to do a little bit of your portfolio as collateral. So that
the main ETFs I got that do them, they only do covered calls on maximum 30% at any given time. So if they've got 150 stocks, they would only maximum do covered calls on 30% of it at any given time.
Which is smart. Now it's funny because the ETFs that I get for covered calls, they do 100% of their portfolio as the collateral. And I'll tell you why I go for those ones, because I already have the S&P 500. I already have since I have like S&P 500 indexes, I've got like all that sort of shit. The only reason I get the covered call ETFs is so I don't have to implement the strategy myself on a personal level. I could just find a covered call ETF, have the expense ratio paid throughout whatever, and then and basically be able to benefit off of that strategy without having to really implement it myself. Is the only reason I get into those ETFs to begin with.
Yeah.
Outside of it, though, really, I'm a very boring index ETF investor for the most part. I try to keep it as simple as I can with it.
Yeah, it's like that's the best way to do it. It's like, like I'm at the point now where now it's just adding to what I got, basically. Or, I might buy a few other things, but I'm not going to get into options and all this stuff. And, I'm not going to speculate on things. It's just from here on in, it's like I'm kind of actually disappointed. It's like a big void that's about to hit my life, because there's nothing left for me to do in stocks other than add what I'm going to add, because I don't want to get into anything riskier than what I've already got. So it's just, I got to find something else to do with my time now. It's like once a month, I'll check in what's the new listings on the market, what new stuff is out there. But otherwise, I'm done. I'm just going to add to what I got. I'm just setting up for retirement. So I got to figure out something to do with my time. Otherwise, whatever I get to do is going to be too risky. And I'll probably lose money. So forget it.
Yeah, and just remember, boring is the way to go with investing. Buy and hold is the way to go. I honestly think that the moment you sell your assets, you're kind of selling your soul a little bit. Now, I'm kidding on that part of it, but I really do think that trading your assets for cash at the end of the day is a bad idea. I think it's a bad idea. But yeah, no. And the thing is, like, as gay as I am for investing, I love investing. Like, I can read theories on it. I can.
My coworker might be trying to get in this chat. I don't know. I don't know if you see him there, but he says he's trying.
Let me see. Hold on.
I don't know if he clicked on it. He said he's trying. I don't know what he's doing.
I don't see him in the studio.
Maybe he's not in it yet. I don't know what he's doing, but maybe he'll make it. I sent him the link. So we'll see.
Yeah, and you followed the same link that was in the description, right? Like in the
Yeah.
there we go. I see lasagna on here.
Right,
Devices not connected. Let's see.
What?
Oh, I think he's. Hold on. You will need to. They will need to connect their mic and cam before you can add them to the stream. Okay. So they just got to make sure at least they're at the bare minimum, at least their microphone, I think. So as long as they got a microphone enabled, they're pretty much good to go. We can add them. I'm cool with either camera mic or just microphone. I'm cool with it.
I don't know. Who knows? He might be a boomer. I don't know. No, he's younger than a boomer. So I don't know. He's from Gavin McInnes' hometown. He actually went to his high school. I think McInnes graduated like just as he was like starting at that high school or something. But they're from like the same place.
Oh, that's crazy. So like in Canada?
Yeah, so you can ask him some Gavin questions.
That's great, dude. Holy shit.
He knew Gavin's punk band back in the day.
I knew about it. Didn't he like end up re-recording a lot of his songs?
Yeah, like a year ago they re-recorded it all. I don't know if they ever had an original recording, but they had some songs somewhere. Maybe they had a tape, but yeah, Gavin, have you been censored merged with Anthony Cumia's network Compound? Because Cumia didn't want to do all the work to run a thing anymore. He just wanted to go in his room, press the button live, and just talk. He didn't want to have to deal with like payroll and tech issues and all this stuff. So basically, Gavin merged with Compound, and so
awesome.
All the Compound users came over to Gavin's thing, but they didn't really keep anyone from Compound Media. They just kept Anthony Cumia. That was it. Because like the other people who work for Anthony. Like when they came over to Gavin, they're like, no, we want like a 5-year contract and all this stuff. Gavin's like, we don't do that. We pay based on what kind of views you get. So then they ended up not staying. But
we got lasagna on.
I don't know.
You have lasagna on.
What have I seen? It's all red.
Well, lasagna has tomato sauce, doesn't it, Tim Smith?
Oh my God, this is an actual lasagna.
It's lasagna. And for the record, I would just like to say the most important thing tonight. Michael Garza is not my biological neighbor.
Yes. I'm going to steal that one. That's fucking incredible.
Oh, man.
I'm your biological stepson, though.
well, could be. Is Tim Smith giving you gold on are we exchanging ideas on ETFs, stocks? Put options.
We're talking about how you went to Gavin's high school. Did he graduate before you got there?
He did, yes.
How many years before?
I think anywhere from 3 to 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't know him, but I've heard of his former band, Anal Chinook.
Yeah.
Real name. So this is my first time on any type of live chat, YouTube. And it's kind of wild. I'm going to be ensconced for eternity on the internet until the earth explodes. So it's kind of blowing my mind, Michael Garza. So it
could be a little intimidating. I know that my pale ass is all over the internet at this point. It's unavoidable.
Let me.
I am inevitable.
Thanos Garza. Let me commend you on your interview with Sylvia Jablonski. It was well done, and I thought you acquitted yourself really well, and it was a great coup for your channel. So nothing but props on that one.
I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it. I did feel like I was unintentionally clout chasing a little bit, though, but I did stand my ground on cryptocurrency. I did, but that's about it. Though I was really excited. Like it was so cool to have somebody on a professional level be able to, because like I'm amateur as shit. I am the amateur porn of investing, and Sylvia Brown is not Sylvia Brown. God damn it, Sylvia Jablonski is the grade A, good cameras, good lighting. She's the high quality porn of
Well,
the
I
investing industry.
maybe edit that one out, but I thought she had a lot of good things to say and was very experienced, and even to the point where I find her company Defiance fascinating, and I thought it was rather savvy of her media people to reach out to you and go with a up and coming channel like yours.
Yeah, I felt a little bad for her because I was like, it's your reputation to lose. You know, that's kind of how I was like, but I was honored though. Truth be told, I was really honored. She, you know, her and her crew had told me that they basically liked my investing philosophy and how I looked at investing and the fact that I wasn't trying to sell anybody anything. I'm not trying to sell people on a on the next 10x stock. Ooh, look at this stock. It's going to 10x. Watch me take your money. Like, yeah. I think that she respects that. And I was happy about it. So
No, it went really well. And I'm glad Tim turned me on to it and pointed it out. And I thought it went really well. And personally, I think you should do a follow-up. Because you cut out at the end and you could just give her that sort of platform to say more things and allow for growth with her company. And I think she'd come back. I think she'd come back in a heartbeat.
And it was big time my fault because I had the free version of Zoom, which only grants you 40 minutes of actual recording and meeting time, which is so frustrating. Like, I understand, you know, they have a company they got to run and it costs money to do that stuff. But in hindsight, I probably should have used StreamYard and just went live. Just been like Bill O'Reilly and be like, fuck it, we'll do it live.
I think that would have its merit. I mean, I don't know much about technology. I'm pretty behind. I use a microwave that has a broken door handle. So what does that tell you? So, but one thing I should say, and I think Tim will agree with me, you know, the red cooler is missing from the top of the fridge, and I thought it added panache, much like my red avatar. So you might want to put the red cooler back up there.
I think I might.
It's got a frat house vibe to it. If you do that, I think it's great, you know, and maybe a tub of protein powder next to it just to complete the whole thing. And I think it would be great. But no, I thought it went really well. And also, Michael, I'll just say that in sort of, you know, parsing your videos, I am learning things. Absolutely. No question. And I think you're part of a generation that's much more savvy with investing and has much better tools than my generation. And I think that's going to really help fiscal health for a lot of people. But that's a mouthful if we're talking about America, though.
Well, I mean, a lot of and honestly, I learned from a bunch of old farts. I learned from like Charlie Munger. I learned from Warren Buffett on how to invest. And a lot of those guys, they started out, honestly, everything good. I heard some stuff.
Yeah, it's just I'm doing dishes on 2 computers, trying to make sure this connection doesn't fail and cooking simultaneously. So other than that, we're brilliant.
Well, I just want you to stay safe, my man. Stay safe. That's all that matters.
Lasagna's in Japan 6 months a year, so I think it's lunchtime right now.
Yes, yeah, not quite. But you were mentioning Charlie Munger, Michael, and I read a quote from him the other day that surprised me, but in a way it didn't. They asked him, like, what was his motivation for wealth accumulation? And he said, well, ultimately it was so I don't have to deal with too many people and I have a large measure of independence. And I thought that was brilliant.
That is probably the most Charlie response of all time as well, because he's a very introverted dude. Like he does enjoy talking to people. He enjoys helping people, but he's not much of a socialite. You know, in fact, I kind of feel like he's a spirit animal of mine. In a lot of ways, if there was a human spirit animal, it would definitely be Charlie Munger for me, because I admit I'm pretty damn introverted. I may do shows like this and I may be able to just speak and say things that are somewhat kind of intelligent, but I wouldn't say I get it though. I think that's another reason why I love investing so much, is because the more I invest, the freer I get. most of my assets pay for any liabilities that I might have, and it makes things a lot easier. So, yeah, I'm all about my assets paying for my ass to exist. So
Well, the other thing that's not talked about openly, or at least, how do I phrase this? Pardon my stutter on that. Is that
it's okay.
Social Security is not an income source for aging Americans, and its structure is in jeopardy. And you have to turn to investments because the gold-plated pensions of previous industrial eras in the United States are over, and that Gilded Age is done. So it's really important for people to invest because Social Security is not a safety blanket, and it cannot maintain a standard of living in that country.
Exactly. It doesn't keep up with inflation. That's the scary part about it. There is no way in hell Social Security is going to be able to keep up with inflation over time. I mean, we see it already. There's older people who are like, fuck, this Social Security check is not getting me by. My rent is increasing. The groceries I got to buy are increasing. I got to call up my kids to lend me some money, like.
Well, and then just the standard of living drops as the people get older, and the camps of people living out of their vehicles, living out of makeshift vehicles. And we have that in Canada too. I'm sure Tim has told you that as well. Yeah. That's on the rise on an unbelievable rate. And so turning to alternative sources of revenue and income streams down the road is really important. Your 401k, a Roth IRAs, anything that you can max out. And even if your company offers that through their plan, whatever it may be. But then there's also what I think is important is independent, what you call, I believe, retail investor and retail investing.
Yeah, I just get a brokerage account. I just have my Schwab account. I got my Robinhood account. I got my let's see, I got Webull. I got too many brokerage accounts, to be honest, and none of it's tax efficient, by the way, because it's not tax efficient at all, to be quite honest. But I'm always buying and holding, so I never sell. And I think that's kind of the way to go. I think that you should always be in the market to buy, but try to never be in the market to sell. Is kind of my philosophy.
Yeah, and I think you get to a point, and I know Tim's going to get there, and you might be there already, where the big thing the final frontier is not the investing, but the taxation. That's the big thing. That's the huge hurdle. How do you minimize taxes, and how do you minimize what we call up here capital gains taxes? When to sell something. To give you an example, I sold a stock a year and a half ago, and I took a capital loss. And I did get something out of it, but I didn't realize the full gains because the stock had dropped so badly. So what I did with it, whatever I got, I just simply serviced debt. I had a small, modest amount of debt, and I just serviced that and I wiped it out. But what it triggered was my taxes were reevaluated for 3 years by the government because they saw I triggered a sale of stock, and that was a bit off-putting. So it was a good lesson in understanding that exercise, and that's the final frontier, I think, for a lot of people is as they get older, how do they minimize their taxes and what can they do to preserve capital?
Yeah, and also selling stock in general, it especially if you get a profit, does cause a tax event. So, I mean, there is tax loss harvesting. So if you sell at a loss, sometimes you can actually benefit from that.
Georgie, financialism, that's what he does. So if it's like a bad year when everything's down, he'll sell whatever his main index fund is. And then he'll buy something say it's the VT, which is kind of the same thing, kind of follows the same trajectory. He'll claim the losses on his taxes for the sale. And then he'll just turn around and buy what's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, and it's all about what's going on in your life at the time. I took on a little bit of debt intentionally for something that I was doing. And I just realized that this particular stock wasn't going to be resuscitated anytime soon. They halted their dividends, which is never a good sign. And it was just middling. It just had dropped 75% over the course of my monitoring it. And it just made sense to liquidate it. And the other reason I liquidated it was I realized it was a asset class that probably was going to be usurped by technology harshly. So it would no longer be like a viable business anymore. And that, science and AI would take over and just, you couldn't really do anything with it anymore. So I bit the bullet, took a loss, enjoyed some dividends for a short time. But when they stopped that, it's sort of, it was on life support, gentlemen. Let's put it that way. I think it's obvious.
You have a different approach than I do. I have a go down with the ship mentality. So if like I've had companies that I just like bought a share in just because I'm never all in on anything. That's like my key to success is never be all in on anything. Just be kind of in. Buy a share or two and call it good. And if it dies, it dies. But if it doesn't, sweet. I try to spread out my risk as much as possible, though. And I really do. I'm not kidding. I've had a couple companies that I didn't have much money in. I saw them, they were going to go bankrupt, and I was like, let's watch this thing go down. I'm going down with the ship. So,
and wait for the dead cat bounce,
it might happen. Who knows? Maybe they'll like get bought out by a bigger company, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, like they were going bankrupt, but another company is like, let's just buy them out. Fuck it.
Well, I think, sorry to interrupt you, Michael, but I think sometimes taking a hit in life can be a big learning point in finance and personal investing. Because I know in my 20s, I took 2 big hits with 2 companies that basically went belly up. One was a modest petroleum company, and I put in a $500 investment, and in like 3 quarters, it was now a $3,000 investment. And I was just going to pull the Buffett monger and hold this forever. But when you're drilling in unstable Albania, that causes problems, and the company was no more afterwards. And I'm sure Albania is very nice, and I've heard good things about it. So it's not an indictment on the nation or people. It's just that the business didn't go well internationally, and the company was no more.
Yeah.
Martin Shkreli's Albanian.
If you actually, one thing that swayed me from the lesson I learned was that it was a hot tip. So an old friend of mine knew a broker, and the broker told him, go to this company. He told me, I invested, and everything was sunshine and rainbows for about a year until it wasn't. Mm-hmm. But I think I learned a hard lesson that was repeated, where on that board of directors was somebody named General Wesley Clark. And if you look him up, he was a big player in Washington. And he was on the board of directors. And in my naivete, I thought, well, what could go wrong? International people on this board of directors. But we learned that from Theranos, didn't we?
Didn't Michael Moore endorse Wesley Clark for president one year? That was like 2000 or something.
I think so. A fun fact about Wesley Clark, he finished first in his class at West Point Military Academy.
Yeah.
That is incredibly hard to do, to be the first in your...
What year did you have this stock? What year was that going on?
That's a good question. I have to jog the memory banks. I think it was between roughly 2003 and 2005.
But that's what I mean. It's so much easier now to get information on things. Back then, like, you might just get a tip and go with that,
Yeah, and I went with an aviation company too that also went by way of the dodo. So that hurt, and that was ouch. But again, I learned some things from them, and it was a learning experience. I'd love to get my money back, but as we all would. But I think there's value there, and I don't wish that on anybody. And I'm certainly not giving advice to this effect on your channel, saying go out and make a loss and learn from it. It's just that for individuals sometimes who have skin in the game, there can be something to painfully extract from that.
That's some good words of wisdom, man. I like it.
Yeah, like if you look at my stocks, the first year, it's just a nightmare. Everything's up and down. I lost like $1,000 right off the bat and just trying to figure out what I was even doing. I was on the phone with my bank like every day for hours trying to figure out how to even buy a stock or what the hell is going on. But then after that, things even out, and now it's like kind of more steady growth. But that first year is going to be rough. Unless you, I don't know, maybe take a bunch of courses, but I just dove right in. I didn't even really know where to start. So.
I think there's something wrong with my brain. I see the markets go down, and I get excited. I really do. Like I always felt like I was made for investing because I I don't panic. I get like sexually stimulated when I see a bear market, you know?
Oh, jeez.
And like, I'm not kidding. Like if the markets go down, I'm like, dude, everything that I want to buy is on sale. I'm like, I can get Coca-Cola for cheap. I can get fucking real estate investment trust for cheap. I can get anything I want. I'm like a kid in a candy store, man, because I really see it as discounts. Like I feel like I'm shopping at a mall when I'm looking for when it comes to ETFs or stocks or anything. Hell, I'm a kid in a candy store, man, and I try to remain as diversified as I can across every single asset class. Because if I'm diversified everywhere, I'm not going to say I'm protected from volatility, but I'm protected from very, 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 very negative volatility for the most part.
And you need that buffer, and you need to weather those storms. And going back to your original point, I think what was an interesting litmus test for the world was what happened in 2020, and we know what that was. And the markets just had gains and traction wiped out in a matter of days and weeks. And that's when that sale came on. That's when then it was shopping time. Oh, and yeah. we saw who went shopping and who didn't. And, I can disclose I did a little bit of shopping and more than window shopping, but 4 years later, I feel I'm the better for it and a little bit more fortified in my portfolio for having done that. So that was the litmus test for people. Are you really going to, in that market, are you going to dive in?
Exactly, man. Exactly. And really, that's the best way to look at it. It's just like, my philosophy is I buy from the bear, and I wouldn't say I even sell to the bull. I buy from the bear as much as I can. I buy from the bull, but not as much as I do from the bear. I buy so much from the bear.
I just have a question about your channel, Michael. One thing that I wanted to ask is, and this is something I don't know if you touched upon, and maybe I missed it, is sort of the conversation around preserving capital and people making those hard choices so they can acquire assets, so they can get sort of their money in the game of the market. Because I think what a lot of people do is they want to start investing, but they've preserved no capital and they have no cash reserves to at least start, or they don't allocate money when they come into it by chance. It could be perhaps they got a rich tax return, or they inherited something, and the next thing you know, it's the car and the trip, and then they turn around like, well, I only have $700 to invest when I could have invested 4 or 5. I don't know if that's a subject that you've ever covered on your channel. I
wouldn't say in depth, but it's actually, honestly, I'll throw out my opinion on it for sure. At least I think I've sort of covered it. Like I've only, I think probably briefly. So the trick is, I guess the question you got to ask yourself is, how important is investing to you as a person, whoever you may be out there, and are you willing to? Because like if you have limited capital, right, to use on investing, like you only have like, I don't know, well, hell, even a little bit of capital is better than nothing. So if you have $100 you can live without every 2 weeks that you could automatically deduct from your bank account every 2 weeks, and put it into your brokerage and invest that, I say go for it. It's better to have some money invested than none at all. Because so many people get in their own heads and say, well, I need way more money if I'm going to start investing. Nah, you just need nowadays need $25, $50. You can start out with the smallest amounts as long as you have a brokerage account, which anybody can pretty much sign up for one. You can get Robinhood, you can get Webull, Charles Schwab, you name it. But if you're really limited on how much money you have, and you've got virtually no money to invest, find what you're spending your money on and potentially find out what is dumb that you're spending your money on. I think would be the best thing.
So institute the Caleb Hammer protocols. By the sounds of it, that would be the best thing. Not you, but an individual has to do a ruthless inventory of what they're spending on, and then they can sort of start to extract some value from that.
Yeah, and I'm not even saying budget. I'm just saying, and it sounds like a budgeting tip, but it really isn't. It's really just kind of an elimination tip. Like, what is stupid that I'm spending my money on? And it's stupidity, by the way, is relative.
Yeah, indeed.
What I spend my money on, some people would be like, "You're a dumbass." But to me, it makes sense to me, you know. So it's all relative.
I don't understand. One thing I don't understand, that you were talking about anything's better than nothing. I don't understand emergency funds. Like, I just put everything in my stocks, and then each month it's like all working. But it's like, they're like, no, you should have like a $10,000 emergency fund or something. When am I ever going to have a $10,000 emergency? Like, when is like $10,000 I'm going to need that right away? It's like, if I have an emergency, I got a credit card. If I need cash and I don't have any cash and all I have is credit card, you can go to the casino and use your credit card to take out cash from their machine. They just charge you $5. It's like, you know, I got thousands of dollars on this card. So I have no emergency fund. I'm just going all stocks. And it's like, I don't see the point of one. Like, when am I going to have this emergency where I need $5,000 in 10 minutes?
So I have an emergency fund, and I've used different ways to populate that account over the years. One of them has just been a very minor side hustle of selling things on the side. Mm-hmm. You know, liquidating something here and there, selling it on the available channels. And also, if there's spare cash on my person that's just building up around the house, whether that could be change or cash, you have to have the discipline to populate that account. And once I got it to a level that I was okay with, then you don't really populate it anymore. You just roll it into a modest investment, like a guaranteed something. I don't know the equivalent in the US, but in Canada it would be what's called a guaranteed a GIC. And it has fixed terms and percentage. So you just roll that over maybe a 90-day term, 180. And as rates are vary, you know, like you could get from a good bank, you could get, I don't know, 90 days, 1.9%, 180 days, 3.5. And you just feed that monster as it rolls over and rolls over. But to your point, Tim, if you need cash, that's the whole point of it. You don't know, you know, that's the unpredictable aspect. And you can lean on credit, you can lean on cash reserves, you could even liquidate assets. I know a lot of people in the events of 2020 had to liquidate their Roth IRA and 401k to survive. And
well, how long does it take to get money out of a GIC?
I think it takes a few days, but what you forfeit is any accrued interest.
That's what I mean. It takes me 2 days to get money if I sell the stock. So why don't I just put it in there and have it grow every month, compounded dividends? So like, I don't, you know, like there's nothing wrong with emergency funds. It's just I'm going without one. You
also have to weigh and balance what poison pill are you willing to take? The credit card interest, the tax on the stock sale, forfeiture of the interest in the investment. Like that's a personal thing, I think. And you have to sort of say to yourself, well, what am I giving up and what can I take? And does it matter because it's an emergency? That's another part of the calculus.
Well, think my rent's only $1,400. I have medical coverage. Like there's nothing that's going to fall out of the sky where I need $5,000 unless, I don't know, what can happen. Like maybe a drug deal goes bad. Maybe I start doing drugs and now someone wants to break my kneecaps. Like,
say no, like Michael Jordan said in the 80s. Stop it, get some help.
Yeah. So that's just why I'm not going with that one, but
get some help.
I don't know. Yeah.
But I think the emergency fund also depends on everyone's individual situation. So, you know, one reason I have a fund is just because I've been, and it took me years to bulk that up. It wasn't done in 2 or 3 paychecks. Like I was slow and methodical, and everyone's situation is different. So I think people create a fund based on their circumstances.
Well, my dad, the rich guy, it's like his investment is pretty much 100% real estate, like of actual properties. He's kind of doesn't know anything about markets. He has no interest, and he has some T-bills that he puts money in. I don't know how long those go for, but says he has some cash in T-bills. I think that's it. Because I think he understands real estate better. Because I think it's actually homes he vacations at and stuff like that. He's got a bunch of properties. So he's 100% real estate.
He's sticking with his wheelhouse. You know, I mean, if he knows his stuff on it, then that's more power to him. Actually,
yeah, his company built some homes, like they would build subdivision stuff. So I think he gets it more. And I mean, he's got an unbelievable amount of money. So like more money than he could ever spend anyway. So and he's not really interested in becoming a billionaire. Like he's good just with what he's got. So
I will say one thing that changed my investment philosophy overall was one statement, and it was income is the outcome. The moment I heard that, it just clicked. It was so simple, but it made sense. Income is the outcome. So all of my stocks pay some kind of a dividend to me, some kind, any kind. And that alone is the income. I never was like, even when I go to even when I go into retirement, I don't ever plan on selling my stocks. All the stocks that are in my brokerage account are never going to be sold. Like the whole goal is just to have my portfolio grow and my dividend payouts grow over time as well. The goal is to maintain wealth, but also have the assets maintain my existence, because I really don't want to live on Social Security. I would rather live on dividend payouts, to be quite honest, whether it's and also I got bond ETFs. I got tons of stock ETFs. I'm pretty much diversified across the board. So one way or another, I'm good. But yeah, income is the outcome was really the defining moment. It changed my entire investing philosophy. But I will say this: I do have an emergency fund. Well, hold on. I wouldn't say I have an emergency fund. I have a cash cushion, and that cash cushion, as stupid as this sounds, sits in my checking account at all times. I try to keep a bare minimum, at the bare minimum, of $5,000 at all times in my checking account, just to be there. So, for example,
but what interest do you get on that, Michael?
Zero, nothing. It's just the accessibility is there is all that matters to me.
Mm-hmm.
I get as long as it's there. I just need it to be there. Like if I need to pay for something quickly, I don't want to use credit cards. I just want to have that cash available. You know what I mean? And I do get cash back rewards though for my credit cards when I use them, and then I just pay them off every 2 weeks. But yeah, I my whole focus is, can I access my cash whenever the hell I feel like it? And I only, like I said, a bare minimum of $5,000 in the checking account. Like let's say my car breaks down, right? And I want to pay for that real quick. Like I need maybe a new battery, right? Well, I want to be able to pay for it now. I don't want to, I don't want to have to borrow money. I'll buy it with my credit card though, only because of the cashback rewards, and I'll pay off my credit card completely after 2 weeks. But like, the whole point is just to have the cash accessible. Accessibility is the key to me. If it's accessible, I'm happy about that. But most of my money, though, by the way, does go into my brokerage accounts. It goes right into investments. But I only keep the $5,000 as a simple cushion for if I ever lose my job. I'm actually hoping to make it $10,000, to be honest. But for the most part, I'm heavily invested. So as long as I got the $5,000 base minimum, that's the key. But yeah, I just, you never know. And maybe I need to do DoorDash full time if I lose my regular job, right? So I'll have to kind of adjust a few things, spending habits, stuff like that, even though I don't have many. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I just like to have my cash accessible at the bare minimum, $5,000 worth of cash accessible. That's my philosophy. Everybody has a different philosophy on it, but I don't particularly have an emergency fund, just a cash cushion. I
think it, like I said, it's everyone has a different architecture of their finances and what works for them. To give you an example, I have 2 credit cards, but actually I have more than that. The 2 that I use the most have staggered dates of final bill payments. So one is usually around the 28th, 29th, but the other one is typically at the first of the month. So as I'm paying off one, and I always pay off my balance at the end, I have a 48-hour window that if I need to put something on credit, I can just go to that other card and do that as well. So you kind of have that wiggle room. I learned that it's actually very good to have those staggered dates, because if you have 2 cards or multiple cards with the same pay date, that might work for your budget. But if things come up, you have that window to pay things off. And incidentally, Michael, what's the going interest rate on a credit card now in the United States?
Well, I get offers all the time for them. So like they're usually like, I look at the back and I'm always curious. 23%, 25%. It just
Wow.
depends on the credit card, though. Like a lot of them, sometimes they'll get ones that are like 20% on rare occasions, really rare. But I don't ever sign up for them because I already have like 10 credit cards they all have no annual fee, by the way. But it's funny, out of the 10, I only use 3 of them, and the other ones go straight up in a lockbox. I just let them sit there and collect dust, and if they ever get canceled, I don't care.
Well,
Do they
you know,
expire? Do they expire?
They have expiration dates on them. Yeah, if I get a new card in the mail, then yeah, I'll activate that card and then I'll just put it right back in the lockbox.
Yeah, I guess they'll mail you, right? If it expires. Yeah, forgot about that.
Yeah, but I the reason I have 10 is, and this is an interesting philosophy. I don't know if this is a good idea or a bad idea, but the reason I have 10 of them is so that way I can have a very, very low credit utilization at all times on a massive scale. So like I don't really use that many credit. Like I said, I pay off my credit cards every 2 weeks, so it actually helped boost my credit score all the way to like 750, and then actually I think my credit score might be 755 right now. I think I can't remember exactly, but all I did was I pay off my cards every 2 weeks, and I make sure I don't hold any balances on them at all. I try not to hold any balances whatsoever on my credit cards. I just pay them off ASAP.
And good for you. That's the right philosophy. I think Tim and I can vouch for a credit card interest fee up here about 19%.
That's not the worst. That's actually that is better than the American credit cards, because I'm serious when I say I've seen some that go all the way up to 29% here in America. It's disturbing. I'm like, what the fuck?
I think it's when you hit 48% or 51 that it rises to the level of legal criminality.
Yeah.
Something crazy like that. I think there's a limit.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Holy shit.
It was years ago, and you mentioned your credit score, Michael. And one thing, I have a friend who works for one of the large Canadian banks, and years ago, and I'm talking way back, he gave me some good advice because I had a modest credit card with a very modest limit. And he said, you will not build up a credit score with a $1,200 credit card limit. That won't, and furthermore, it's kind of useless in times of emergency. And so I have really high limits on both my cards, but I've never even come close to realizing them ever.
Yep.
And I worked with a fellow years ago who had $1,000 limit on his card, and I told him to bump it up. And he said, no, I can't do that. I said, so you get stuck in a major American city, your flight is delayed 36 hours, and you have to get a hotel room. You might end up sleeping at the bus station because you can't afford a hotel in LA for 2 nights on Canadian credit like that. So it's also for emergencies. You want that cushion that you mentioned.
Yep.
That's what I did. I just bumped mine up like a week ago to like, my limit's only like $4,000 or something. But it was like $3,500. They asked me because I called them about something else, my bank. And they're constantly always sending me emails. Do you want to bump it up? And I'm like, you know what? Fine. Let's just do it. Let's go to 4,000. Then I got the other thing, the protection on my checking account. You can go up to $500 overdraft now. But mine is like you pay per time. So it's not like a monthly fee. It's like if I overdraft, then it's like I pay like $10 or something. And then it's like I have to pay it off. If you don't pay it off, you can get in trouble. Then it starts getting into like all kinds of problems. But I figured let's just do that. I'm like, what if I'm in a coma or something for like 2 months and my student loan payment's got to be made, and it's like I'm going to need the overdraft because I can't get to a computer. Maybe there's nothing in my checking. I don't know. So I'm like, you know what? Give me that too. Just give me everything. So we souped up my account.
I wanted to ask Tim if on that one channel that ends with Hammer and starts with Caleb, if some of those guests who are interviewed, quasi-interrogated, do they ring up really hefty bank fees and interest on their credit card? Is that one of their sins, I guess, their financial sins in that space?
Yeah, Caleb goes crazy. He'll be like, $87 stolen from you this month, if it's like interest or something. But yeah, it's a lot of that. I mean, their biggest problem on that show is just spend it. Like he'll go through their checking account or their credit or whatever, and it'll be like, DoorDash, McDonald's, 7-Eleven, Walmart. Like, what is all this crap? Then it'll be like, why are you paying for Spotify? Why can't you just listen to ads? Why do you need all these subscriptions? So their biggest problem is spending. But they all got like credit card interest, and some of them got stuff in collections and student loan issues. Because student loans are different. Like, I've got a student loan here, maybe because my income's not high enough, but I don't have to pay interest on it. I make the monthly payments. And then at some point starting next year, because I've been paying for so many months, it goes into another level where the government starts paying like part of the payments too. So my fee drops even lower. But in the US, there's like private student loans. There's so many different kinds of universities.
Oh, yeah.
Like, some of these student loans are huge and people are paying out enormous amounts. So that's another issue on Caleb Hammer.
Well, student loans are, I borrowed money to go to college, and I sometimes go to the interest calculator and I calculate what I owed way back in the day and what it is in modern. And it's like almost double by inflationary standards. So you calculate your debt on the day you graduated and you bring it up to $24 and it tells you. And I think I'm pushing almost doubling it if I borrowed it all today to go to college. So it's the student loan thing. I mean, we could probably talk for hours about that on this channel, about the $1 trillion student loan issue beleaguering the United States.
Well, Biden did something where he canceled some depending on the circumstances. Like, I think it was like, if you owed a certain amount, you had this kind of degree. I know he canceled it for a bunch of people, but other people still owe it. So I don't know.
I was dumb. I actually paid mine off in full with no defaulting. So I was pretty stupid about the whole thing.
Yeah, you could have waited. They had all these things now, no interest. There's this one pro wrestler out here called Ladies Choice. I saw an interview with him once, and he was in like Nova Scotia back east, but he went to like a college there, before he got into wrestling, and he got a student loan, and he just never paid it. He just moved out here, and they ended up just not contacting him. I think they lost his file or something like that. But back then, college was a lot cheaper too. Like, he was probably like a few $1,000s, but it's like,
and
back
things
then,
were,
I think it was provincial.
Things were on paper too. So someone spilled a coffee on it, game over. There's no record of him doing it. So that's the other problem,
Yeah, they asked him about that. He's like, I don't know. They never contacted me. I guess they lost it. I don't know.
Well, I think that there's a lot of things facing people in America, and I think that has bled into Canada and the UK as well. Maybe not as much in Europe because of their system of education, but you were talking earlier, Michael, about having those dividends as a retirement stream income, and I think that's great, because one of the things you see in the US compared to Canada is people working very late in life, like people still working into their 70s, and and they must work. It's not a fun thing that they get to work at Dick's Sporting Good and they talk about golf with some guy and then they take a break. That's an income they rely upon to survive.
No, without a doubt. In fact, it reminds me actually of may he rest in peace, one of my old coworkers back in the day. His name was David, and I think he was about, I know he was definitely older. I can't remember. He never really revealed his age, but you could definitely tell he was like pushing 70, and or something along those lines. He was like a pretty old dude, but he was like, Social Security checks weren't cutting it. And also like, he didn't really have anything ever invested or anything like that. From what I remember, he never he just had to work at JCPenney, and he wasn't a big fan of it. He'd rather just be like lounging back, and I kind of remember, I think about him quite a bit, and it's like, I don't want to turn out like that. I don't want to have to be working at some retail store or anywhere really if I'm like pushing 60 or 50. I mean, I'm okay with it if I ever really had to, because I'm not above it or anything, because I've done it all.
Well, I respect people that work hard, and I think there's a lot of value for working later in life. But I think when you have a career later in life or just a regular job, it should be for choice, and it should be for benefits and some sort of dividend. So if you're a golf fan, Tim and I know somebody who retired, and he now works at a golf course because he loves golf and he can talk to people and get tee times, and it's a little bit of extra pocket money, but it's not make or break. He can pull the John Goodman from The Gambler and say, you know what, and walk away at any time. But I remember I was on a flight that was routed through Arizona probably about 15 years ago, and it was a major US carrier. And I noticed all of the flight attendants, all of them were like over 50 years old. And they just had this sort of real tired look on their face. And, they were very pleasant and nice, don't get me wrong, but that's a young person's job, jetting all over the world and moving things and changing time zones and dealing with that. That is very much a young person's job. And I respect people who do that work in the aviation industry. I've flown a lot myself, and I know it's not easy, but to do it at that point where you have to and you're older, I think that would be difficult. And just like it would, well, let me give you a harder example. At my old job, I had to talk to a fellow who was on the phone. I had to call him about something to straighten something out. He only had a 15-minute lunch at 65 years old still at his current job. And he still had to work because he told me he was supporting a 15-year-old daughter. And it's just like, wow, that's the harsh reality check that people need to learn from and try to just, choose their path wisely is all I wish to say on that.
Well, I remember when I was like 18 or 19, I worked at a call center in Surrey. Like, it was telemarketing for like carpet cleaning company. They just give you a phone book. Here's some pages, just start randomly calling people. But there was people there who were like older. They were maybe like 50s, 60s. And this is all they got. And it's like, you got to sit there and do this horrible job. You got to get reprimanded by the supervisor. Like, it's like she had to call some lady in the office because she was doing something wrong. It's like, so yeah, it's a nightmare. So it's, dividends are kind of the way out.
It's also a nightmare, Tim, because I don't know. I cannot see a major corporation treating somebody like Michael working for them worse than the 59-year-old or 79-year-old employee. Like, they're both going to be treated the same, and there's going to be expectations. And to sort of put that burden on someone at that age is a bit draconian, but I understand it's a market economy, and that's how we work. We're a free market economy. And if you don't want to work there, don't. But I think that, people setting things up so they can have a dignified second half of life is an important thing. And it's something that's not taken seriously in America.
Or even just survival. Like, I saw a thing in Toronto the other day. It's some big apartment, and they're kicking people out. The apartment is like run down and messed up, but there's been people living there like 30 years, and now they're like in their 60s, but it's rent controlled. But they're kicking them out. The landlord's like, well, I want to move like a family member to this one and stuff like that. But it might just be that because the rent's so low because it's rent control. But it's like, for these people, it's just survival. They're like, we barely have any money. We don't even know where to go. Like, rents in Toronto are insane. So we're going to have to leave the city. So whatever job we got, we're not going to have anymore. So it's not even like enjoyment. I just look at it in terms of survival. Like, I'm just piling up dividends just to be able to survive in my old age. Like, I could get to enough where it's an amazing retirement, but that's not even the goal. The goal is just be able to, if you get kicked out of a place, you at least get a new place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, I read something in the Canadian media the other day, and I wasn't able to catch all of it, but I'm sure in the US they have the same thing. They have discounts for seniors, and there's special days if you can prove you're a senior. And I also know they offer discounts for veterans and active servicemen and women as well. But this article was saying something to the effect, since the seniors have more money savvy than the younger generations in some ways, they're actually an enriched generation, and they're thinking of doing away with those discounts for senior citizens.
That's funny.
Oh my goodness, man.
So what's the point of getting old? I don't get it.
Oh man, that's too good. Well, and the thing
I
is,
don't see as many senior discounts anymore like I used to.
I
Remember
will
the
say
seniors
though,
menus? Remember every restaurant had seniors menus? What happened to those? I don't see them anymore.
I will say though, the thing is for me, man, the reason I invest so heavily is I work. So I work to invest, and I invest not to work, and that's really the goal. Like, I like hard work. I like working, but I prefer it on my terms, and I fucking hate being a butt boy to a manager. I really hate it. Like, I do DoorDash, for instance, and I'm not. There's no manager overseeing me. If I could do DoorDash part time and then get paid dividends, and then maybe get monetized on YouTube or something like that, that would be the life for me. The only people I'd answer to on YouTube would be my haters, which are everywhere, and then DoorDash, I just answer to the customer, and then my investments, you know, they kiss my ass by giving me dividends, and the whole goal is, I would love to see more people in my age group, you know, work to invest and invest not to work, because, or at least invest to not have to be a bitch, and not to be a bitch to, you know, I don't know. I'm a good employee, but I hate being an employee, if that makes sense. So
it's all about time. It's all about how you want to, like, I got this one coworker, her husband still works a ton. He invests a ton. He has about $750,000 invested. Plus they have some equity in like a condo they live in or something like that. But he works nonstop, and she's like, she'll take trips with their kids. Like, she goes by herself to most things, and he just works and works and works. And he's like around 50 right now. But I'm just like, you know, so he's not spending time with you or the kid. He's just working all the time. Like, because I guess he's not going to get a pension from his job. So he's kind of worried about that. So, but still, $750,000, you can retire now if you put that in like a high yield ETF and just collect the dividend. But it's like, he just plans on working until, maybe he might not retire. He's working and working. I don't know what their marriage is like. It sounds weird. But it's like, but that's the whole point with the time. Like, she's got some investments too, but she's like, I'm not going to ruin my life just so I can have a little more money in retirement. Like, and my point to her was like, yeah, like if you're going for financial independence, retire early, and you're doing it in your 20s and 30s, and you're trying to retire in your 40s, then it's okay. Like, maybe go crazy, work a couple jobs, like, you know, maybe something like that, and then get to that point. But if you're just going to retire at the normal retirement age anyway, like, who cares? Just so you have more money when you're like, you know, 72. You're just going to be sitting there eating soup anyway. You're not going to be able to spend this money. You're not going to be able to do that much. So it's just like, you know, that's what I said. It's all about how you manage the time. Like, once you get into it, that you realize that becomes just as important. You know, I've like definitely changed how I've invested this year. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have a normal life now. Like, the last 3 years, I just lived in like some tiny closet basically. And just like, you know, so, yeah, that becomes a big issue that a lot of people don't think about, because you can really go nuts at it. But then, like, what's the point? Like, now years are flying by, and all you're doing is waiting for your next check to invest, and you're not doing anything.
That's a good point, actually. And one of the things that was lent to me by a friend was a book, and it was about actually the strategy of decumulation of assets, like how to properly deal with your assets in retirement. And like Tim said, to actually spend it and enjoy your life, because you have to live. I know, Michael, you said earlier, there's things you spend your money on that people might scratch their head, but there's things I spend my money on, the world might scratch their head at it too. So at some point we have to live and enjoy life. And, you know, I was speaking with a colleague at work, and he's going to take as much money available to him as early as he can, because there's not a huge lifespan for the men in his family. And he knows this, like his uncles, his grandparents, even his own father, like none of these men saw their 80s or even mid 70s. And he knows this. So he's taking steps to be like, well, I'm going to do what I can early on to put things right and live the life that I know what's going on. So,
and not even that, like, even if he does live till the older, like one of the top 5 things retirees say that they regret is not spending more money when they were younger. Like, they'll get to like 78 or something and have all this money, and they can't really do that much with it anymore. Just buy a bunch of junk they don't need. So they're like, yeah, I regret not doing more when I was younger, because now I'm this age, I got all this money, but there's nothing I can really do with it. So.
Well, and there's something to be said for living cheaply, though. I find that I live a very enjoyable life. I'm cheap as shit. I really am. I still have fun. I hang out in the sunshine. I go to the river. I swim around. Whether it's going fishing with a friend of mine or just going hanging out at their place. Honestly, living cheaply, I think as long as I'm around people I care about, that's the most important thing to me. And yeah, I'll spend a little bit of money for an experience, that's for sure. But yeah,
I've taken a year off.
Live cheaply.
I've taken a year off from living cheaply, and I can tell you about probably 30% of the stuff I bought this year is just crap I don't need and wouldn't have bought otherwise, and pretty much just regret it. You know, the other stuff's okay, but before the previous 3 years, there was like almost none of that. If I bought something, it was like I either desperately needed or wanted for some reason. There was no like excess garbage. So I'm planning on going back to that when I come back from Las Vegas. But it was just like, you know, but I realized it was a good test. You know, okay, a few years into investing, now let's just ease up a bit and let's just see. It turns out I have bought some crap that I didn't need and I didn't want, and now it just sits there, or I gave it away, kind of thing. So yeah, you get to a point where there's only so much you need. There's only so much you can use, you know?
Well, a friend of mine has a cleaning lady here in the city, and the cleaning woman tells him stories about people who have shopping addictions, mm-hmm. and how she'll go into an apartment or a condo or someone's house and they'll own 12 laptops.
Yeah.
The daughter will have 20 different designer bags still in their packaging, mm-hmm. still untouched, the price tag still on, which is high. So some people have a major shopping addiction. And I think we saw that during the pestilence of 2020 when Amazon and their stock went through the roof and their purchases went through the roof. And I think I was the only human in Canada that I bought something off Amazon in 2023 and I had to call them to get my account fixed because she said, you haven't bought anything for years. And they had to do something to fix it. And we got it sorted. But she's like, you haven't bought anything for so long. And it was during that time frame. I never bought anything off that or nothing, because if you're buying experiences, if you're spending money on experiences, enjoying life, that has a lot more benefit and dividend in the long run than a toy that might be obsolete next year.
Yeah, people have all these collections and stuff. My rule is I don't collect anything unless I want the aesthetic value too. So let's say, I don't know, people buy Funko Pops or something, or they buy, they collect things. I'll buy one, but if I like how it looks and I want to look at it, like on a shelf, I'm not buying like 50 of them to put in a closet just so I can say that I've got like an entire set of something, or, whatever it is people buy. So that I have to like the aesthetic value of like a picture or whatever the hell I'm getting, or I'm not buying it.
Well, and life is short. I mean, I know that's a cliche, and it's a cliche, but there's relevance to it. And we've seen that over the last 4 years. And the reality is that if you work hard and you feel that you're not just working hard in the job that's in front of you, but working hard and discipline with your finances, you get to enjoy some of it. I think it was Eric Weinstein who said something that changed my perspective a little bit. And it wasn't the cliche, YOLO or we only pass through once. It was more, in this life, one day you're going to wake up and you're going to do something, you're going to eat something, smell something, and you will never do it again. And I think growing up in Eastern Canada, the example I could use is one day I woke up and a bunch of kids were playing hockey in the street, and I went into my family garage and grabbed my hockey stick and went out and played. I put it back after the game and I never did it again. And I think that's one prism how you can look at life. I won't go into Eric Weinstein other ways. I think he's quite smart and quite astute. And so I latched onto that one. I know that Tim is a huge fan of Brett and Eric Weinstein. So
they're okay. They're, you got to have a spectrum of people to kind of all give input. Not everyone's going to be the same. Yeah.
Well, you need a people diversification like a portfolio.
Yeah, especially like, conservatives or whatever. It's like, but they fight too much. They're like, oh, this person's not real. This is not enough. Too much fighting. Like Gavin says, I don't punch right. There's no punching right. It's like, I'm not going to hate Ben. I'm not going to hate whoever. So,
well, I mean, there's so much discord and so much animosity now that we project it instantly in the current social media platforms we have and news. And a lot of the times you have to wonder, is the person really that upset with somebody else, or is it simply clickbait? Is it simply just to generate, views? And there's nothing wrong with doing that on a YouTube channel, Michael. I never thought my first presence on YouTube would be with a title like that, but hey, things happen in this world. So,
yeah, it's a cool discussion. It's just, but yeah, it's just, it's just like, that's the way I've looked at it anyway. It's like, at some point I cut it off. I'm like, here's how much I'm going to need for retirement. I'm not ruining my life so that I can have more money than I need when I'm like 80. It's just like,
Well, there's documented stories of people that were so miserly that their family needed medical help and they wouldn't get it. And they had millions in the bank. And it just it starts to become a mental illness. And I'm not an expert on that area for your viewers, but one could argue that the save approach at all costs, that you sacrifice certain things, can be detrimental. It can be detrimental, but everyone's risk tolerance is different. Everyone's idea.
Well, look at it this way. Like, let's say, because I fully intend on having like $1 million portfolio as soon as possible. And the whole idea of having $1 million portfolio is not just to, eventually sell it. It's to have all the dividends that'll come in, the source of income. It's a consistent income fountain. So I think what can be done though is, if you do have like $1 million portfolio, let's say like a scenario, a family member does get injured or something happens, like a medical emergency happens, and you really need to help them. I mean, hopefully the income itself from the $1 million portfolio, and an example from the dividends, could be enough to help at least contribute along with other family members, because I think that's also selfish of the sick family. This is going to sound terrible and sociopathic of me, but in a weird way, it's also sort of selfish of the sick family member to only go to you in that scenario. Like, there's just because like, if I have $1 million portfolio, I mean, I'd be more than happy to maybe sell some of it if I needed to help a family member, but not all of it. But I at least take the dividends and give it to him or something. And also I would get the cavalry together and be like, hey, other members of the family, do you want to contribute to this? And if they gave me crap about my $1 million portfolio, I'd be like, well, hey, if you would have built one like I did, you would have had income coming in too, to help with this and stuff. And I don't know. So
I got coworkers. I keep telling them about this stuff, and they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm just like, you don't understand. This is not optional. It's like, you don't need another handbag. You need more. You need more stocks. This is not. It's not. Don't even look at this as optional. This is a. I'm demanding you do this. But it's like, it doesn't work.
And I'll be the first to admit, I'm just going to say this right now. I firmly believe I'm mentally ill to a degree with how I love to invest. Like, I'm obsessed with it, and I think that my buying and holding, it would be like me going to the government and saying, hey, some of those taxes you took out of my paycheck, I'm going to need some of that back, please. That's how I feel if I pull out of my portfolio, because my portfolio is a tax to myself. I tax myself all the time to have that money go into my portfolio. That's my own version of taxing myself. So I think of having to pull my assets out for whatever is the same thing as like asking the government for some of the taxes they took out of my paycheck. And I know it's not the same thing, but on a feeling basis, that's how I feel about it. I know it's totally illogical, and don't get me wrong, I'm a little bit of a psycho with investing, but like, I don't know, I can never feel guilty about holding on to all my assets. I just couldn't, like, at all. I mean, there may be a circumstance down the road where I may need to, and I'm willing to, I'll never know how I'll truly act in any circumstance until it actually happens. But yeah, I'm a crazy bastard.
Well, I think it all depends on your life experience, what's going on with you now, and what will shape you. There's things that we spent money on in our youth that seemed important, and now we wouldn't dream of buying it or putting even a dollar toward it. But then there's other things now that are more important. Admittedly, I am a coffee drinker. I know that my biological neighbor, Michael Garza, is a coffee drinker too. And, but I refuse to really buy cheap coffee. And I think Tim can attest to that. I just, life is too short to drink bad coffee, in my opinion.
Yeah, but at least, you're making those decisions. I got stuff too. Like, I got some amaretto right here I'm drinking, but it's like, but the fact that you're aware of it, like, a lot of people aren't even aware. Like, when you go to Caleb Hammer and you look at these people's statements, they just buy. Why'd you buy that? I liked it. But you bought 10 of them. Why did you buy, it's just like, there's no thinking into it. Like, you can still have nice stuff. But, Georgie from Financialism made the point the other day. He's like, look, you can drink Starbucks every day, or you can drink it once a year, but it's in Hawaii. You know, that's the trade-off when you get into investing. It's like it's quality over quantity. So, but yeah, these Caleb Hammer people, it's just spends, but they're not really thinking what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, Tim's right. Somebody said something I caught the other day, and I'm paraphrasing, so I'm going to muck it up. So, but he said something to the effect of like, do you want to drive a modest car to the airport and then fly business class, or do you want to drive a sports car to the airport and you're in economy next to the toilet? Like, what's important to you? What do you weigh and balance in the importance of that equation in that scenario? And what's it all about for you? And I think we all do that. We all play these psychological games and have these mental gymnastics.
Well, I got a coworker who's like got 15,000 in cash, just sitting there. She has some what has she got? She has some mutual funds her bank told her to buy, but she's got 15,000 in cash, not doing anything. I tried to tell her to invest. She's scared. But anyway, the other day she's like, yeah, I just bought a new leather jacket on like a whim. I was at the mall kind of thing. It's like, I didn't really need it, but it's like, that's the thing. There's no more whims anymore when you get into investing. It's like, everything's kind of thought out, you know, the whims kind of go away.
But I mean, that money essentially is being held in escrow. And that's the other, I think, sin is you don't have to be a savvy investor and an active one, but you have to have, and I know you talked earlier, Michael, about your cash. That's a modest amount in a certain sense. But when you're holding 15,000 just sitting there earning 0%.
Oh wait, hold on. I think the feed cut out. Hold on. My headset's cut out a little bit. Hold on.
I think I cut off from my Japanese feed here, where I'm in North Island of Hokkaido having lasagna. That's where I'm at. So.
That's a kitchen nightmare.
There's a few nightmares going on here in my kitchen. I can attest to that right now. So
I will say though that I and this is the dumbest statement in the world, but I will admit one thing I am is stylistically cheap. I'm very I wear the same blue shirt every day. I have 7 pairs. So I have 7 of these blue shirts. And people think I wear the same shirt every day, which is funny as hell. They're like, didn't you wear that blue shirt 2 days ago? I'm like, it's the same one, buddy. It's not really the same one, but I like to tell people that I never change my shirt. It's so much fun. I do like to troll. I got to admit, I do have a little bit of a troll love that I love to do in real life. And being cheap can be fashionably hilarious sometimes. So like, I will admit when it comes to coffee, like you were mentioning, I wouldn't say I'm a coffee snob by any means, but I'm definitely like, I gotta have organic coffee. So I get the organic, I get like anything that's organic coffee straight up. Usually it's pre-grounded organic coffee. But yeah, no, I'm all about the organic coffee. I do try to avoid restaurants though. I've never been a restaurant guy unless I'll take my girlfriend out to a restaurant every 2 weeks, sometimes every 3 weeks, depending on what's going on in my life. But just to try to make sure I'm not like overspending. But yeah, I do try to live like I'm poor as shit. I guess the whole idea is act broke but never actually be poor. That I'm quoting that from Grant Cardone, who is questionably a little bit of a grifter. He's a little grifty, but he does make a few points. And I do try to act broke but never be poor is always the goal.
Well, I think there's another good adage that we all know, which is sort of like money talks but wealth whispers. And so I think one big goal is you might want to get to a place in life where you're whispering, and I think that's important.
Gavin said in his Gavin and Ann Coulter talked about in their town, the richest guy growing up, no matter where you were, drove the worst car in the entire town, had the worst clothes, and never had any money on them either. Anytime you were with them, they'd be like, do you have any cash? I didn't bring any cash. So they always seem like, and then you find out like, yeah, that's like the richest person in your town.
They're deliberately cheap, man. And that's me. I'm intentionally cheap. I try not to over cheap it, but like, yeah, it's one of those things like, it's so funny. I made a list and I got to find this list one of these days. I made a list back in the day of what is everything that is awesome, that is free to do, that's free to do or extremely cheap to do. And I was like, damn, if you get creative, you could still have a good time and be not extremely cheap, but cheap enough to where it's like, like I'll go drinking in the woods sometimes. I'll go hiking, or I'll play frisbee golf while I'm drunk as hell with some buddies of mine. That costs a 12-pack of Coors Light and honestly a good time. So finding the cheap things that are enjoyable with the people you love, I think, is the key. And it's always a good thing.
Well, I think that we're also in a time frame where the options for fun, in quotation marks, are now thrust in front of us at such a rapid rate and at various ages. So, a freshman in high school will get on their phone and they'll see all these images of people having fun at Coachella, and they want to go to Coachella. And they don't want to wait till they're 18, 19, 20. They want to go now. And so there's a bit of that. There's a phrase, I can't think of it.
Keeping up with the Joneses, baby.
There's keeping up with the Joneses, and then there's a little bit of fear of missing out. There's a little bit of
FOMO.
There's some FOMO. There's the urge to do that now. And I would add, there's no mystery around it anymore. Like, I'm of the age when my brother came home and he said, "Oh, I went and saw a concert and, it was great." There was no phone to show me what happened. There was no Instagram afterward. It was an event that was kind of shrouded in some secrecy. And then it was my rite of passage to get older and go with my buddies to a concert and experience it for the first time. And now I think we're exposed to so many things. I was listening to something the other day about Dubai, and there's guys that save up all their money to go to Dubai, but when they get there, they are not on the same level of wealth as the residents. So they have a really tough time eking out the fun time they envisioned for themselves. That's my social commentary.
Oh man. Damn.
One thing like that is, I follow that Ennis Yilmiser guy on YouTube. He's like a real estate. He shows off mansions and everything. And it's just like, but that kind of puts it in perspective. It's like, if I can't afford the $80 million one that I want from his channel, then it's like, what's the point? Why get a $2 million home even? Want to just rent a cheap place because it's not the $80 million one. So screw it anyway. Everything else sucks. So just get a cheaper one than like what I got. That's kind of how I feel. That's why I love watching his show. It makes me feel better actually for what I got. It's like, well, I can't afford the $200 million one in the Hollywood Hills. So I'll just take a cheaper one and look at all the money I'm saving. And what's the difference? I still have a kitchen. Like, I'm not going to make it, maybe I don't have a movie theater and a bowling alley, but the $2 million home doesn't have that either. So it's just,
Well, I think, I'm reminded of something that was said to me over a decade ago. An old acquaintance of mine works for a major bank in a major Canadian city. And he didn't give me any details because he couldn't, but he said his responsibility is dealing with high net worth clients. And he said he just used the word celebrities, athletes, well-known influencers, potentially, actors, etc. Mm-hmm. And he said, when they come in and they pull up to the front of our bank with a sports car or Mercedes, they get out, they come into my office, we shut the door. And when I start looking under the hood, I see the home is in his wife's name. The summer home is in his parents' name. There's a double mortgage on the home. The car is leased. It's not owned outright. And when you really look at it from an objective point of view, they're not by definition wealthy. They're asset rich. They might have rich assets or holding on to certain assets by their fingernails, but they do not have wealth. They might give the appearance of it. And he was telling me, he said, I can't tell you who, but you would know people who are in the paper, who are on internet, who are part of shows, part of sports events, that they are not as flush as you might think.
Well, some of these celebrities' homes might cost $100,000 a month to maintain. Like there's all kinds, there's security, there's landscaping, there's like a million things that cost money at these places. There's all kinds of fees in your gated community. And like, they're just trying to that's why a lot of actors and stuff take crappy movies and do commercials. Like they might have an amazing mansion, but it's really expensive to maintain that lifestyle, plus the jet, plus the boat, plus everything else.
I wouldn't turn down a $2 million home, just for the record, gentlemen. But all I'm saying is that money, wealth, the appearance of it, allocation of resources, it's all very individualized, and you just don't know what's going on, as my friend said, under the hood. Like what are the nuts and bolts and mechanics of someone's life, and what is the real story? Because in the end, the numbers don't lie. It's like watching the game film from an NFL game. You turn the sound off, the film doesn't lie. So that's what it is with portfolios, with numbers, balance sheets. It tells the truth.
We got workers at our office, and it's like some of them have second jobs and they make more than me. And I never really understood that. Like, oh, I need a second. And then I'm like, how come? They're like, I don't know. I just needed the money. It's like, what? Like, maybe they live in Vancouver. It's an expensive city, but it's just still, it's like, it never occurred to me that like someone above me would need like a second job or something on like the weekends. But I've seen that,
Lots of people fall victim to lifestyle inflation. I notice. I did when I was younger. I'll admit that. When I was younger, if I made more money, I would spend more money. But I'm going to say that the older I get, the more money I get, I think the more I pull back on being a consumer. It's and I wish I could teach it. I still think there's a malfunction in my brain that allows me to be the way that I am. And thank goodness for it. I don't know if it's taught. I don't know if it's genetic. But I need to find a way to teach it and I don't know if it can be taught. I think it just depends on the acumen of the person, of just who the person really is deep down. But I think the problem is lifestyle inflation is what it boils down to. People, I think another thing is I have a bad relationship with my father. I think that helps out a lot because I'm never afraid to make more than my father. I noticed that people who have good relationships with their fathers are afraid of outdoing their fathers in a lot of ways. But me, my father pisses me off to every degree. So I do better than him in spite, and I make more money than him at this point. And yeah, so I think the thing is, I think that the secret to this is going to sound terrible is have some daddy issues. is the real key. It's a success is have a bit of a chaotic relationship with your father. And, I do love him, but we're definitely two opposite people for sure.
Yeah. Especially, like you've seen athletes and stuff, like the pressure, like what is it? Like, I don't know what it is now, but I heard a stat in the past, like 70, 80, 90% of like NBA, NFL players are broke, like within, 5-10 years of leaving the league, like they're declaring bankruptcy. I remember hockey players, even like when the rookies, they always used to interview them, and the first thing they asked is, what kind of car are you going to buy? And it's like, I'm watching this thing today with a pro wrestler, Stevie Richards, talking about how much he made in WWE, like how much he got paid weekly, what your expenses on the road were, like what you would have to do to pay taxes, because you'd wrestle in all 50 states. You had to file 50 tax returns, one for each state, plus Europe, plus Japan. So he's like, by the end of it, you might only come away with $500 a week after you're done your expenses and everything.
Oh, damn.
And he's like, he remember this one rookie, and the guy's like immediately buys like a really expensive car. And it's just like, and he was saying like there were wrestlers they were like buying homes that was like the mortgage was like that had you wrestling like every month for the next 30 years at like that salary kind of thing. And then, they might be gone in 5 years. Now they're stuck with this like mortgage kind of thing. So it's like, yeah, a lifestyle inflation. People go nuts. They get some money and they're like, oh, this is going to last forever. It's like, no. It's like, you see the people who don't do that. Like that YouTuber Asmongold lives in some tiny room. Apparently, I think he does okay. I don't know if he's ever left his house. I'm not sure how he gets groceries, but it's like, but he's got no lifestyle inflation whatsoever. He eats $2 steaks. He has a video how I make a $2 steak. It's like that's the opposite of like pro athletes.
Well, I think,
stud, dude.
I think one thing is that the age factor is huge. So if the government granted you your wish, Michael, and gave you back every tax dollar you ever paid in a big couple of bags and dropped it off, you are in a position now that you know how to allocate that and what to do with it. But if they did that to you at the age of 19, it might be a whole different scenario and outcome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know how much they teach you this in schools. I don't think a lot. Maybe it's getting better, I don't know. Like I remember that my last roommate, she was like in the school, like education assistant, and all the kids were depressed. They're like, we're never going to be able to buy a home in Canada. Like the immigration and everything, and the foreign buyers, the homes are way too expensive. We're never going to have a house. So they're all sad. I'm like, well, bring me in. I can at least tell you how to get stocks. You'll at least have cash then. You give me cash. Maybe you rent an apartment, but at least you'll have a lot of cash. Or maybe you rent a home,
I will admit, stocks and bonds, one thing I do like about them, even though bonds do suck for inflation, they're not inflation proof, but the one thing I love about stocks and bonds is that you don't have to borrow money to technically get into them. Like I never have to borrow money to get any point of entry. If you want to buy a house, usually got to get a mortgage and pay some sort of interest on it. With stocks, I can get I can get a share of Coca-Cola for like $60. And then there we go. Bam. I own a piece of Coca-Cola, stuff like that. And I think stocks and bonds should be more encouraged. I think the problem is everybody looks at it through the gambler's lens, and I blame the channels CNBC, I blame Fox Business for making investing seem like it has to be a gambling parlor, that you always have to look at the stock market. No, you don't. You don't. You just need to know that what you're investing in is valuable, and you just need to hold it, collect it like Pokemon. I don't know how old my audience actually is, but assuming that everybody in my audience base plays Pokemon, collect stocks the way you collect Pokemon or
That's
a collectible.
I think I revealed my age asking what's Pokemon.
That's okay. That's okay.
But you're right, because one of my oldest stocks I bought, I think 17 years ago. And I've never sold it, and I've just added to it in down times, and it's been the gift that keeps on giving.
Boom. That's it, man. That's honestly it. Just add more wood to the fire is always the goal. Especially if the fire looks like it's about to go out a little bit, add a little more to it anyway,
Well, I watch this one guy. Has an investing channel, and it's kind of for people who, like, I don't know what his job is, or if he's early retired or what. He seems younger. He might be like 30, and and his is all about like for lower income investors and all that. And he's like, once you get to $10,000, he's like, that's kind of around the time where you start to feel comfortable, kind of for the first time, if you never had $10,000. Like, that amount of money kind of changes you psychologically. Like, it doesn't mean you just stop there. But prior to that, you're constantly worrying about, how am I going to, what if something happens? I can't pay rent. I can't pay my phone bill. I can't do that. Once you get to 10,000, things kind of switch psychologically. Now you're not really paycheck to paycheck. Like, you got this extra money if you need, kind of thing. And I don't know what happens after that. I'm like, this year sucked. I should be at 40,000. I'm closer to 30,000. So I haven't done anything this year. It was a nightmare. I'm supposed to get back into it later. So I don't know what happens at 100,000, 200,000. Like, at that point, it seems harder for me to fathom. But when I got to 10,000, I understood that. When I got to 30,000, it was like less. I didn't get it as much. But 10,000 was really good. So.
I just remember you're adding an extra zero. That's all.
I don't know.
The only way to think about it, man. And the best thing you could do, I'm not gonna lie, all my goals are really high on purpose, because I don't really care if I get disappointed. I'm disappointed if I don't set high goals for myself. So I set goals all the time. Like, I want to have a portfolio right now that is, it's sounding a little bit along the lines of like affirmations and shit, but I do like to write down what I want. Like, what do I want? Like, how do I want to feel? How healthy do I want to be? How awesome do I want my relationships to be with everybody? Stuff like that. And I know I'm going off on a tangent a little bit, but I think that if you write down something big, it's easier to visualize. If you write it down enough, you start to think about it. It starts weighing on your head. So if you wrote down that I can easily have a $1 million portfolio, it might be easier to imagine, because you're boosting your confidence a little bit by saying that. And then second, it makes it to where you don't have that mental block. Then you can start kind of imagining it a little bit more. I think the thing is, the reason it's tough to imagine a higher amount of a portfolio is because a part of your brain finds that a little daunting. Everybody's brain finds that a little bit daunting, even mine sometimes. But it just comes with repetition of having high targets and high goals. And honestly, just being happy that you're thinking as big as you can and writing down as big as you can. It goes along. It sounds like I'm touting some stuff from like The Secret or something like that, or one of those affirmation things. But there is a sort of truth to that, writing down things. I'm not saying it'll magically appear, but it will definitely shift your brain into making yourself go for it more often, if that makes sense. Having a bigger portfolio, having better health, having whatever, because then you start seeking those things a little bit more the more you write them down, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think there's probably there's an actual psychology to visualization, but stuff like The Secret was just telling people money was going to just appear, like if you just imagine it. So I remember that book. I knew so many poor people because I was broke back then too. And you just be sitting there, and they'd show up, and they'd pull that book out of like their bag or something. Where'd you get that? Like, this is The Secret, and they'd start reading it. And the idea was that money would just show up. They weren't sure where. Like, I think it was just supposed to appear in your account or something. but there is like actual visualization, which is helpful.
So I think the key, Michael, is that when you set a goal that has a definite challenge to it and there's potential obstacles and adversity, is you're required to marshal your resources in a better way and to marshal as many as possible. I mean, if you ask me to pick up 5 pounds, that's not a problem. But if you say, well, you need to pick up 155, I'm like, I got to think about this and do everything I can appropriately to do it. Mm-hmm. So it's not really about being new age or chronicling The Secret to yourself in some mantra. It's more that it allows you to say, okay, what do I do and what must I do and what I need to accomplish to get here?
Because the brain is always working. The brain is even if you're not consciously thinking of the solution, at a subconscious level, your brain, if you write down crazy goals, is working towards a solution and looking for things to get to that target, because we're target-based creatures. Mentally, we're target-based. So if we have large goals, it's a large target. And the larger the target, the brain wants to, honestly, we're like what's that analogy? I can't think of it right now, but the point I'm trying to make is it goes back to our hunter-gatherer days. Because if we had to go hunting, we had a target, obviously. But the same mechanism that worked in our caveman ancestors' brains is the same mechanism that works in our modern well, we have a very old brain if you think about it, because the brain hasn't really evolved that much over the years. But what I'm trying to get at is the higher the target, the more your brain at a subconscious level is going to try to problem solve and try to work. It's going to try to find a way to get to that target, especially if you could visualize it. That's why writing it down is so important, because when you write it down, you start thinking about it, you start imagining it. And then once you imagine it, then you're on a conscious level. Then at the subconscious level, you're going to want to try to get there in reality is the thing. So,
well, our brain and body is economical, so it will only do as much as you ask of it. So the previous example of lifting 5 pounds, I can do that, but I can do it with minimal effort. And my body knows this. My body knows it doesn't need to do too much. But if I ask for a greater load and I ask for greater demand, it needs to work economically, and it has to do that. And I'm not an expert in this area, but I see no reason why the brain would not operate the same way. If I ask you, by the end of the month, you have to save $20, you probably have that in your wallet. But if I said you have to somehow save $350, you would have to put resources to work to achieve that goal. Exactly.
And you'd have something you're working towards. So there's nothing more dangerous than a man with a goal, than a man with a plan, or woman. I like to be very fair to the sexes on this channel. I'm woke. I put Joe Biden 2024 down below.
I saw
together.
that. I saw that. It's election year, and I'm just going to stay out of the politics for my first foray into YouTube and the internet. I'm just going to stick to funds and portfolio. And
the elections kind of become like a circus because it's free shots on Trump. Like it's like you get to like they'll give you sometimes a free shot like with a dart or something at the carnival to win a thing. But Secret Service has no problem with it. They've stepped off. They said take all the shots you want, roofs, like stand wherever you want to shoot from, go nuts. So it's up to you, whatever you feel like.
I think there definitely needs to be some sort of large inquiry into that, simply because of the nature of what happened, but also the Secret Service are charged with protecting many officials in Washington and many parts of the federal branch. So
that's why both parties were so mad at that lady. Like they were like,
Yeah.
even the ones who hated Trump were like, oh, by at the end of their thing, they'd be like, yeah, by the way, I also think you should resign. They were talking to her.
Yeah.
nothing like getting interrogated, and the parting shot is to leave your job. Okay, got it. So,
Well, you know, she was the one who evacuated Dick Cheney from the White House on 9/11. Like she's close to Dick Cheney. There's a picture of them together. And with the shooter, there was some mysterious contact in Washington, D.C. that visited his house a couple times and no one knows. So
That's
I don't know.
so weird.
Maybe this will all come out. We'll see what happens.
jeez. Well, gentlemen, it's the top of the hour, and I have to earn money to pay taxes. So I'm afraid at some point I need to sign off. But Michael, thank you for allowing me to join, and keep up the good work with the channel. And again, I thought you did a great job with your inaugural esteemed guest, Sylvia Jablonski of Defiance. I thought you did a great job. And in 6 months, I would say reconnect and do a live stream and see what's changed with her within her industry and her company.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Well, hey, anytime I do any of these live streams or anything where it's just like a free for all, you know, getting everybody together, if you ever want to join, always feel free, please. Because I just enjoy conversation, even if it's just crazy back and forth between everybody, you know. So I appreciate you being on, my man. What was I know you're going by Lasagna on here. Well, unless you don't want to reveal your first name, I get that. So I'll just call you Lasagna for now.
That's okay. That's all right. I actually don't even eat a lot of it as a general rule, but I thought it would be applicable for some weird way.
I don't know I don't know if he wants gay orgy live stream on his resume.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll just call you Lasagna on this one.
Let's just stick with that. And you know, hey, to each their own. Live your life and live your best life. I just never thought that my first attachment would be to that title on YouTube. So
it sounds like something you get at Denny's at 3 a.m. The gay orgy lasagna.
It's not. That's you know, to each their own, as I previously said. And peace and goodwill to everybody. And guys, thanks a lot, and good luck, good continued luck with the channel, Michael.
I appreciate you, my man. You're always welcome on, my man. I appreciate it.
Thanks again. Peace.
And then we got Tim, my man.
Yeah, I gotta
that guy's awesome, by the way. That guy is so cool. Like, I can't remember what I'm not going to reveal his first name because I can't even remember what his first name actually is. I don't want it to be revealed during the live stream, but like, just because I like protecting people's identity, especially if they don't want to get tied to a gay orgy live stream. I get that so much, actually. But no, he's a really cool dude. I think he's got some really neat philosophies. Like, I always love hearing it, man.
Yeah, well, he's a little closer to retirement, so you know, you get that perspective.
No, really cool dude though. Seriously, like he's all just very kind and oh hell, I like his. Like I said, I always love hearing people's outlooks on life and how they live it, because it does give me an interesting idea on how I want to live mine. Because there are times I feel like I'm not living life right, and I kind of need an additional perspective. And having additional perspectives even gives my audience another way of, you know, seeing the world. You know, I want people to see the world through as many different lenses as possible, and I kind of hope that my show allows that to happen in a lot of ways. So just having him on, and you said he's like somebody you work with or something, or?
Yeah, it's like a manager in some other department kind of thing.
What a beast, dude.
I run into him in the office a lot.
What a stud though, dude. He's a cool dude. Oh man, but I get him wanting to keep his identity sealed, you know,
Yeah.
especially if he's in management and stuff. That makes perfect sense to me, actually, because you know, image when you're in management, image unfortunately matters a little too much and stuff, and so
Yeah.
that makes
That's his
perfect
first,
sense to me.
that's his first time on the internet, I think.
Hell yeah, dude! Well, I am happy that I popped his cherry in a sense for being on YouTube Live. So my man Lasagna,
I
I'm
just
happy
looked
to
at-
pop your cherry live.
I just
That
looked
was
it up.
awesome.
It's 7 degrees hotter where I am than it is in Coos Bay. It's 65 here. Coos Bay is 58.
Is it seriously? Damn, dude.
Yeah, it's hot here, man.
Well, you're on the coast, aren't? Well, are you more inland?
Well,
or
I'm
you-
like about an hour and a half inland from the coast.
Oh, that makes sense because here on the coast, that makes more sense that it would be hotter because you're more inland than I am. So
Yeah, like same with the winters here. Like your winters are probably a little better. Ours are a frozen hellscape where I am.
see, that's another thing. Like that, as much as I wouldn't mind living inland,
Yeah.
it's like that's the thing that scares me is like the harsh freaking winters. Depending, you know, that's always scary.
Cool, man. Well, I got to go to sleep too. I got to get up at like 6 a.m.
All right, man. Well, hey,
Yeah,
thanks for partaking in this virtual gay orgy. I appreciate it, my man.
I do a Tom Green video, but you said you might get copyrighted, so you can't do those anymore.
Yeah, it sucks because YouTube's been really lame lately, is all I'll say with a lot of it. But hey, man, I'll let you get your sleep, my man. I gotta eat something anyways. I've had that stuff sitting there in the background for a while, so I'll have to reheat it. I'll have to reheat it a little bit. But that's you guys were giving me.
It's just like George Foreman. You got to bring that chicken out of retirement.
Do you think that the George Foreman grill will go woke and call it the George Floyd grill?
Yeah, they could do that, George.
Yeah,
I don't know. You got to come up with a slogan. It's like
no, I don't know if that would be a good idea. I don't want to get banned on YouTube. I'm going to just leave it.
We have Derek Chauvin with a knee on top of it, just pressing the chicken down.
Oh no!
Right.
Oh man, no! Oh man! But anyway, brother, you have an incredible night, my man. I'm gonna end the stream here too. I'll talk to you later, man.
All right, I'll see you later.
All right, later.
Bye.
Bye. All right, my man Tim Smith kicking butt. My boy Lasagna. That was awesome. That was badass. Woo! Thank you guys for being on. I appreciate you guys. And honestly, Lasagna, my man, sharing your life experiences with me and the audience is pretty damn cool. So I appreciate you, bud. All right. Later, everybody. And by the way, people expecting a gay live orgy, I'm sorry to disappoint. It was a gay orgy of ideas. With all of our clothes on. All right. Anyway, later, everybody. Woo!